Remember, I told you all that Brent Hall helped to design our new old house. This has been such a fun project to work on. Today, he actually is coming out to the farm to check on the progress, to give me some tips, for me to ask some questions. So in the first part of this video, I'm gonna just share Brent and I talking about the house and some tips and suggestions and design things. And then I'm going to also include a little house update that I also filmed to give you a little more explanation on some of the things happening. Things are moving quick, so in some ways this video already feels a bit outdated, but I'm trying to keep you all somewhat up to speed. I do share a few more real-time updates over on Instagram because they're not edited. I can just share them really quickly, but I'm trying to give you as much of the behind the scenes of the design process as possible throughout all of this. I got some fir flooring that we're gonna do the linseed oil paint on.
Great.
We had to get 12-foot lengths because they have to go a little bit past, I guess.
Right.
I think originally the joists probably would have been ran this way so you could do it this way, but this is how we're compensating for it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the kind of thing we end up doing. So historically they would have built in boxes this way, and then they would have run their flooring on top of that. But
right.
We make accommodations like this too.
They was out here a couple days ago and he was dropping this down
right.
to create a little bit of a water runoff.
Yeah. Getting the porch right could be the most important detail on this house. If we can get the porch right, we just walked through that. But the fact that he's built his porch floor out farther than the beam.
That's good.
Because the column has entasis and grows out. But and I said, I need you to mock this up. I don't want him to go through a bunch of work. Have him tear it out.
Right.
And getting this detail right is huge. It's going to make or break whether this works. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's that important of a detail.
What do you feel like are the most important details on it?
Probably 30% of my videos are on porch details because they're wrong today. So one is that this ceiling, the fact that we've created this beam, he's framed out this whole beam. This is going to be our architrave, our entablature. The column is going to visually support, and the fact that we've done it this way, and you can see his framing, he's thrown that beam in kind of as an afterthought. And what happens is new builders will look at it and go, well, I don't need that. I'll just run the column right up onto the bottom of it. And so they ruin the look, that historic look, because this whole column and beam arrangement is timeless. It goes back to the Greeks and Romans. This is the way things were built. This is what our eye is used to seeing, what our eye wants to see. It makes it inviting. It makes it beautiful because you're introducing that human scale, those classical proportions into your house. And on a simple house like this, not that this is simple to build, it's even more important because it gives it this classical elegance. Not that it needs that, but it basically creates a timelessness. And that's what I think we wanted when we started talking, is to create something that was timeless. And so how do you do that? Let's introduce those materials. The windows, so glad you went with our windows, but they make a huge difference on scale, proportion, depth, just all this stuff.
At the current house I'm living in, it's built like this, and they put beadboard down actually
I've seen
on
that.
The inside.
Yep.
Is that usually,
There's precedent for that, okay? And I find it in simpler cottage houses more than I would find it in more elegant houses. Like, I think the reason they did that is just because, hey, we got this wood, might as well use it there kind of thing, as opposed to, no, classically we need, because the way that whole beam and column work is that the architrave, that lower piece, means king beam. It's a supporting beam that going across. And so we need it to communicate that it's this strengthening piece that's open, and not that it's a trim, because if you run the beadboard around, you're treating it more like just trimming it as opposed to communicating and punctuating that piece.
A detail like this doesn't seem like it would be that much more expensive or hard. So why is it not done? That's the thing with a lot of things. That's what I've been thinking about, is there are some things certainly that you could, go over budget on, but then something like that, or proportions, that doesn't seem like that would be more expensive, but it's still not done. Yeah,
I mean, basically, it's what I always talk about, this lost art of building, okay? The fact that we, after World War II, and there's a really long explanation, but I won't get into that. We started practicing modern design, okay? Modernism is a rejection of the classical proportions and all that stuff. And so a way an architect was graded in 1920, okay, was on his ability to look at the past and interpret and bring it forward. Okay, the way an architect is determined, their skill today is their ingenuity, is their inventiveness, is their uniqueness. Right. That's why Frank Gehry, you want to look him up, but the crumpled paper, the weird shapes and the weird buildings, the fact that so many of these modern buildings are ugly, that's what they're chasing. They're chasing after being inventive. And so people stopped practicing these things. The front porch kind of fell away as a important part of our houses because of cars. Cars became how we commuted, and then you see houses after the 1950s with garage doors on the front of the house. That was never something that was practiced in the 20s. And so the fact that the garage symbolically attaching itself to the house, it's important. So you're seeing a number of things that have happened that fall away, that we just stopped doing this and we forgot how to do it. We forgot how to do it well. The reason that I have so many videos on porches is because we've forgotten how. And so you're right. It is that we've just stopped practicing them. It's fallen out of habit. And there's a Walmartization of our culture where cheaper is better. Winning, there's a great book called Cheap, and it's all about discount culture. It starts with Woolworth and Sears and all those different things, talking about that the consumer today feels like if they can get it for a cheaper price, they're winning. And that there's this, win that happens, and we lose sight of beauty, we lose sight of, longevity, sustainability. And so, you're making decisions and doing things here because you don't want to be repairing this in 20 years, right? This is a generational house, and so you're making decisions so it lasts a long time. That is going to cost a little bit more, but not so much more than it would be to put a wasteful window in or cheap things that are ugly, because beauty, when it's done, practiced, does change lives. I mean, it's a very important thing. Sorry, I did a big old rant on that. But
that's okay. No, I'm talking about that all the time because it seems impractical to a lot of people, but to me, how I live here and we do everything here. And
well, I'm sure you have a same analogy with food. I mean, food and the whole production of food and everything else is about cheap and fast, and it's not about, what is it, the slow food movement or whatever they call it, but just like you have better ingredients, richer ingredients. They cost a little bit more, but they're worth more.
Yeah, you can't compare it to bunny bread, making homemade bread. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to get bunny bread. I always say that, and people are like, that's a Midwest thing. I'm like, oh, shoot. The dollar loaf at the store. Another thing I've noticed is some of the things that we're choosing, like we're doing these wood frames around the windows, and I had trouble with all the different molding places I talked to. They don't make anything exterior. They pretty much try to talk you out of it. And so people want to talk about the maintenance piece, because I think people imagine things are going to be a lot worse than they actually are. Because I've lived in old houses for the last 17 years, and we've always had these things because we just lived in old houses.
Right.
And so it just feels reckless to put it on a new house.
It's a little bit of the same thing, is that unfortunately, people think that plastic is a better material for our houses because it lasts longer. I would argue the reason things don't last long is because we've forgotten how to pitch the windowsill of a window so that it sheds water. I've gone to window companies that have a flat sill on the outside of their windows. I'm like, well, what do you think is going to happen? What's going to happen? They were using poplar, which is a terrible exterior wood. They didn't pitch the sills. They weren't practicing it, and then they're going, oh, it rots. You can't trust wood. It's cheap.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, time out. There are much better woods. There are things that if we practice that we can build much longer. The thing that's so frustrating to me is that the plastic, hardy siding, I hate hardy siding. It's concrete. It's made of, it's chips. It's just crap. And they think, well, I have to do that because wood doesn't last long. And that is not true. And if they provided an air gap, because here's what's happened. Okay, we now sheathe our houses with plywood and Tyvek, or they use Huber Zip. And if you put siding directly on top of this, water gets trapped. Now, historically, all the studs were open studs, okay? And so air could move through there and it would dry out, okay? But now with this stuff and with these products, it doesn't dry out as much. And then they say, oh, my paint's peeling, the paint doesn't last, wood's terrible, I want something that's gonna last forever. If we just put strips on here, allow an air gap, we use linseed, I guarantee you will not have to paint your house again for 20, 25 years.
Right.
And most people will be like, well, you gotta repaint a house every 5 years. Why? It's plastic. paint today is plastic.
Right.
So to your question, we are having to break a lot of the bad habits that we've gotten into. We rely on paint to solve so many things for us. And I just keep saying, that's plastic. That's not paint. There's not rich oils, and that is plastic that you are spraying on top of your thing. Let's go back to a natural product so things can dry out and things can last longer.
Well, and there's no maintenance-free choice, because even when you do choose something
100%.
that is, plastic, you're still going to have to eventually replace it. It's not going to be looking good in 100
And what I tell
years.
people is like, look, you put PVC on here, boop, okay? That PVC, concrete, whatever, will never show that it's rotting. What's happening is behind it, it's rotting, and you don't know it because you got plastic here, but you got wood behind there. You still have moisture, capture, and you still have problems back there, but you just don't know about it. They might think I've solved the problem out here, but they haven't inside.
Okay.
They still got a problem inside.
Before Britt and I head inside to give you some of the updates there, I want to tell you about something that we love in our home. When we move into our new house, I have plans to swap some kids around, move my youngest son into a big boy bed, then he's going to go with the next youngest. In our large family, things are always swapping around, and we have the need for another mattress. And I'm super excited to partner with Porch and to tell you about their Porch Kids line. In our home, we have several Porch mattresses. As we have more children, we add more, and the Porch Kids natural mattress is perfect because it is a two-sided mattress that offers age-appropriate comfort. The firmer side is for young children aged 3 to 7, where support is essential. It has a layer of firmer natural latex offering a responsive feel that keeps young sleepers from sinking too far into the mattress. As kids begin to grow, they often prefer that more sink-in feel and a bit of a softer mattress, so it also has a softer side for children that are a bit older, making it truly able to grow with your child, something that you can love in your home for many years to come. For me, it's important to prioritize the sleep environment, and Porch natural and organic mattresses are perfect for that. They don't have any of the off-gassing that happens in the conventional manufacturing process of making mattresses. We spend a third of our lives in bed. Our kids spend even more time. So it makes sense to make sure the air quality and to make sure that space is as healthy as possible. All Porch mattresses are GOLS and Green Guard Gold certified, 100% fiberglass free, and they offer a 100-night sleep trial so you can be sure that your child is comfortable and loves the mattress before fully making a decision. We have been loving Porch mattresses in our home for many years now, all throughout the house. I love that the kids' natural mattress is super durable. It stands up well against kids and pets, and I know that it's a mattress we're going to be able to have for a long time. We love our Porch Natural Kids mattress, and I know that you would too. If your little one is looking for a new bed, make sure to check out Porch. You can click the link below or go to birchliving.com/farmhouse to get 27% off your Porch Kids natural mattress. Thanks again, Porch, for sponsoring today's video. Some of the questions I got on Instagram from people who want to know, like, what makes the biggest impact if you're trying to design a house that's classic, like I call it a new old house. I think you call it classically inspired proportions, all that kind of stuff. What are some
I think new old house is a good term.
New old house. Where do you think people go wrong? I guess we could approach it from that perspective. Or where do you think, like in materials, so not choosing plastics, choosing the right materials is important, and then I think proportions. But yeah, what's the biggest impact?
Well, if you went into an old house, I'd be interested to see what people's eye would see. Would they hear the creaky floors? Would they see leaky windows and go, ugh? Or would they see wide moldings, beautiful patinaed floors, high ceilings? What would they see? The thing I want for your house is I want it to be timeless. And the thing I like about what you're doing is you are making decisions that will help that. For instance, no sheetrock. You still doing that?
Down here, yeah. We're being a little bit more budget conscious on the second floor. So, but down here, yeah, all different panelings.
And so, that kind of decision is, in my opinion, people could walk in here and not even notice that piece of it. But the wide trim, the doors, salvage doors, the walls, just like that, the lighting will be really important, and the floors. I think people are going to walk into this house and go, how old is this? When was this built?
Right.
Because that's a win.
Yeah, I had a guy stop by to deliver some stuff, and he said, oh, you guys are renovating this old house? I'm like,
isn't that funny?
Down to the studs.
What I think happens too is like the handrail that we pick here. Mm-hmm. If we could find an old newel, which is the starting piece on the thing.
You can find them pretty easily at Architectural Salvage.
And so, and if we could use maybe in this first run old balusters, that would be a way that I would play around with tricking the eye as to what the people are really seeing. And so the thing I want for your house is too, this layering. They've come here 3 times. Oh, what? I never noticed that. Why did you? Oh, look at that. That's a cool detail. Never noticed that.
Right.
Because you've made these decisions, this layering of decisions that is just subtle. It's not like showy. It's kind of anti-showy. It's like these subtle decisions that I think will make a big difference.
Yeah. I think the salvage pieces are really important because, well, they're inconvenient.
No doubt. And like people don't want to do them. And they're just like, I got to charge you extra for that. And just all this kind of headache that
I
goes
didn't
along
realize
with that.
how inconvenient they were.
Yeah.
But they are. But I think they're going to make a really big difference in the end product because there's just some patina that you can't necessarily replicate.
100%.
You want it to look cared for. You don't want it to look like beat up.
100%. Yeah.
But, and we'll put some patina on it. You got to take your time too. Like this hasn't been fast.
Yeah.
If you get in a hurry, that's where you're going to end up having to make some decisions that maybe won't be as authentic, which you can, of course, over time.
Well, I think what you're saying is really important for people to hear is that there has to be a patience. Because Gwen has told a bunch of people that I go, you've got to fight for these details, just like you're talking about these doors and the pushback you're getting from people and everything else. You've got to be determined that those are important details and that we got to get those right, because no one else on your team probably is fighting for you on these kind of details.
Yeah, no, they're not.
And so you don't get support. You start getting discouraged and you're like, gosh, is this even the right decision? It's a fight. It's really hard.
Yeah, you said that in the beginning of the process. Over time, I've realized what you meant. And our builders have been great to work with.
Yep.
But still, it's every step of the way, it's a little difficult. It's like, oh, now we got to.
Well, I'm sure him coming out here to talk to me about these little details was just like, talk to this guy. Do you have a stove?
So yes, some stoves? Yeah, we're actually doing a modern wood stove over there because I want to see the flame.
Okay.
And then we're doing a cook stove here. That was what was just delivered here actually while you were here.
Oh, good.
Was the cooker. And then
is it gas?
No, it's a wood cooker.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Wow.
We're doing a real range over here too.
Okay, yeah.
But this is going to be, I think I'll be pulling bread out of this all winter long.
Oh, nice.
Another thing that people were surprised is that we went with, I wouldn't say closed concept, but compared to today's standards, pretty closed concept. Like there's very distinct rooms. This room does have kitchen and dining. So this is a good gathering space, but then everywhere else you go, there's distinct rooms with doors and openings, which, I think people are starting to move more towards.
I agree.
Possibly.
I think the open floor plan concept is, I wouldn't say dead, because there are certain areas where they're going to want it to open up. This open New York loft where everything's open is, I think, dead. And that will be a layer. People will be in there. You know what I never noticed? How it you got to compartmentalize a little bit. I like that. That's an old house thing.
And then we just got these in. I wanted to paint these just because I thought it'd be really pretty to paint them.
I would. Well, if it's Spanish cedar, you might have to wipe them because there's some oils in the wood. But historically, that would have been a painted door.
So you would paint these? I
would paint those.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking. I thought you said wouldn't. And then I was thinking about some bolts, because that's another place with trying to create a new old look.
Yeah, hardware.
Is either, hardware.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hardware to be found.
There's a lot of hardware. And hardware ends up being very distinctive. Like your sliders there, the pocket doors, that's a Victorian, kind of handle there.
Yeah.
And so it has a little bit more decoration on it than something that's arts and crafts. And really this house to me is kind of riding that line. Is this 1890? Is this 1910? When was this house built? And hardware can be one of those things that can help tell that story.
And you can salvage it. I've found a lot salvage.
Tons.
And then we've found someone like House of Antique Hardware.
Yep.
That's been a good.
We use them a lot.
I'm thinking a bolt. I'm not 100% sure.
Flush bolt?
Yeah, but then they also have, how do you pronounce that?
Cremone.
Those long ones.
They are good. They don't have a strong precedent in a house like this.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Maybe trendy.
It's a French bolt. Okay. They are trendy right now. And there's also what's called an espanglinette, which is also French. And there's actually hooks that go in. You kind of lift it up and turn it off. Those are a little much for this house. That would be a very rich piece of hardware for a simple house.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, and that's something you want to try to keep in mind, the story you're trying to create. And when I think back to the simple farmhouse we lived in before this one, that kind of inspired the, yes, we want to move, but we also want to live in an old farmhouse. The French doors had the bolts on the top. Just the, on the top there, whatever you call surface bolts.
Well, this is spectacular. My gosh, look at this.
Yes. Do you think we did good with our barn spacing?
I do. I love it.
We'll have to go down there because it's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, that's
We obviously can't wait to get the casements in here. We packed a lot in this back porch. I mean, a lot.
Yeah, a lot of programming.
It's a lot of small little rooms, which I like. I think it's going to be good.
Love it.
Just a few of the old doors. This is going to be an operational transom. I think we missed that, but it will be. And then, this and this will both be operable transoms. Okay.
Well, I tell you, when I came around the corner and looked up, I was blown away. I just
coming up the driveway?
It looks so good.
It really does. I feel like all the placement's good. I feel like the proportions, like when I was looking at the side of this house, I was thinking, I think I would have kind of messed that up because the house is skinny.
Right.
I think you're tempted to want to get your square footage instead of doing like this back porch addition.
Right.
And the side porch addition. But then when I see the way the windows are and the chimney, and I'm like, oh, it's a skinny house.
Yeah.
I appreciate.
Yeah.
So we were going to do the sewing room over there, and obviously we're going to get our little, what do you call those little half moon casements or whatever. Possibly an office. Gable end lights. This is probably kind of an office space, like a podcast recording studio, voiceover, so I can see out to the kids' play area.
This is great.
I'm glad we went for the attic. More than I just thought, oh, we finished the attic. We have to do a staircase. You got to do HVAC. It's a little like more of a deal than I thought, but still, it's very nice. We can't wait to see.
How do you like that roof?
I think it's beautiful.
It's going to silver out.
At first, it was red.
Too red.
But I think it was wet because it's only been up like a week.
Yeah.
And it's already a lot.
Calm down.
Yeah, come down. So there was a colonial revival. I think I sent it to you. Staircase out of an old house that I thought could possibly work for this space. Then there was some reason why I think it might not.
I mean, you can, if you only can get so much of it, you can switch it at this landing, at that second floor.
Yeah.
And you could have one that comes there and one that goes down there. If we're playing around with that colonial revival, kind of early farmhouse, they're not going to be that far apart. They're not going to be that different. Because what's going to happen, you're going to have what's called goosenecks with 90s turns and all this different stuff happening right in here. As it comes around here, it goes up there, comes up there.
And you piece them together like that.
Yeah, you can piece them together. And you'll have some newels, like you'll have intermediary newels that are here and here. Sometimes, I mean, some in federal stairs, they just go right around. There is no newel. So it just depends on what it is. The difference between this baluster and this baluster can be different. And I would bet that it's the 10th trip here that's before someone goes, oh, you know what? Those are a little different.
Yeah.
Because anybody downstairs, all they're going to see is right here. They're not even going to see any of this other stuff.
Now, do you have any like quick suggestions on lighting?
This is really easy because, and the way I always look at it, like, if this was 100 years ago, what would they have done? They would have put one light right here, right?
Yeah, that's the houses I've lived in.
And
they do have poor lighting.
And then sconces, maybe 3 sconces, maybe 2 sconces. And so
just don't overdo it.
Don't overdo it.
I think that I'm tempted to overdo it with the sconces.
Well,
too,
the Pennsylvania farmhouse, she bought hundreds of lights.
Okay.
And if you go back and look at that or watch any of my videos on it, you don't really notice how it's changing from room to room. Crazy the number of decorative historic lights that she used. I don't feel like it comes across as a mess, right? I don't feel like it comes across as like, what's going on with the lighting? I think it works from room to room and it changes the personality and everything else.
So where were some places she bought those? Like where did she get the lights?
Well,
mostly salvage?
Mostly salvage. eBay. Have you looked on eBay much?
A little.
eBay has a lot.
Etsy.
There's I don't know about Etsy. I'm not a big Etsy guy. Architectural salvage would be huge.
Yeah. What's that? Archantiques.com. Arc Antiques, I guess you'd say. I found a lot of lights on there.
She went to I don't know what the equivalent would be of here, but there's a big antique show called Round Top in
Texas. Yeah.
She went to Round Top.
No, we don't have anything equivalent to that. That thing's like known.
It's huge.
Nationwide, yeah.
I know that they went to Round Top every I think it's twice a year, they would go to Round Top and buy things.
So was she collecting for a long time before you designed the house? Yeah.
And back to your patience thing. She had basically 90% of them before we started. So
okay, well, that's something people are asking me when you're in the planning and dreaming phase about something like this. What do you do? And I was like, well, you could collect things.
Yeah.
Like collecting lighting, collecting doors,
hardware. She
plumbing
had cabinet hardware she'd picked out, lighting, door hardware.
The best tour I've seen of you doing that house was the episode 1 of New House Old Soul, I believe. Yeah, that's because we watched that recently to get some ideas for the stone.
I just like the windows because you had more contemporary looking windows.
Yep, I went and I took your advice and made them tiny.
Yeah, I like it.
And our builders were like they were really, why are you putting them up so high? Like we literally can't see out of them. So those are going to be the floor joists for the hayloft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've gotten so much reclaimed wood. We did end up going with the 12-foot door, and I'm really glad we did.
Yeah, it's great.
Because it's beautiful. And then
oh wow, look at this.
Hopefully
that is a cool barn.
Isn't it cool?
Oh my gosh.
And we were actually really afraid to site it because it was so pretty before.
Yeah.
And then once we got all the wood on, we're like, oh, it's even prettier.
Oh my gosh, is this a cool space? What you're creating here is awesome. I mean, this view here is just magical. See this? That's a Victorian escutcheon.
Okay.
Right, and see they'd have that decorated. This exact same escutcheon 10 years later is flat and plain.
Okay.
So
I'm buying stuff that's like 1890s basically.
Correct. And then this gets to be a little bit more 1900, okay? Because you see a little, what is that, Beaux-Arts or something ish kind of thing, a manufacturer's version of that. And so you can end up dating these things by the decoration and stuff on them. And like this rim lock you got here is very plain compared to other rim locks. And so, anyway, and rim lock is an older lock. Rim lock is an 1890s lock.
All the ones we have that are rim lock all came out of a local house that my dad was tearing down, and it is an older house. So I knew it was kind of dipping back a little bit.
But because those are plain faced and they're not real decorative, they work on this. They're great. Rim lock was still available in 1910. It just wasn't as common. It would have been used in a more service area. Thank you for having me out. I love how the house has come together. It's really awesome.
Now make sure to go check out Brent's YouTube channel. Just search Brent Hall here on YouTube. He has so many great tips if you're thinking about renovating a historic house, designing a new home that you want to have historic character in. I think you're going to love his channel, his books, and all of his great design advice. Now back out to the farm to share a little bit more explanation on some of the updates and where we are. We're doing floors that run from the door out to the front of the porch because that's how it was traditionally done. They will be painted. Old house porches were made so that they were a tiny bit higher in the back so that water would run off. And people don't really accommodate for that much today because they're not usually using tongue and groove. They're using deck boards that have cracks in between and the water just goes on down. But since we're doing tongue and groove, which is a solid surface, they had to drop this front down a bit so that way it'll slope and water won't sit on it. It's not something you notice when you look at a porch on an old house, but it is something that they accounted for. And it was funny because I was reading about that this morning and thinking, oh no, that's another thing that I don't think we did. And then when I got here around 10 a.m. this morning, that's exactly what my builder was doing. So obviously he already knew that. Here is our tongue and groove flooring. We got 12-foot lengths because in an old house, they run the length of the porch. They're not cut in several spots. I was able to observe this in the house we're living in right now. It has porches like that. Like even though inside the hardwood flooring, like if you go right now and you buy new hardwood flooring, there'll be a lot of lengths that are a foot, 2 feet, and a lot of breaks in it. And I've noticed when I looked inside my current house, tons of breaks in all of the floors, lots of small pieces on the interior, but the exterior, it's a continuous run. And then my first house, which if any of you followed me way back on Boone Street, I did not understand preserving history at all. And we totally did like a modern makeover on the porch. We did decking boards. We didn't do tongue and groove. But before we did that, which now I'm like, why would I have done that? But I just didn't know. You know, this was nearing a decade ago now. And I've just really come to appreciate the details in an old house. But before that, it did have continuous run tongue and groove fur painted flooring. And so 2 of the 3 old houses I've lived in had that. My last house, I wish it did, but at some point in history, probably the boards were all rotten because wood does not last forever. And so our last farmhouse, it had a concrete porch and we just painted it so it kind of had the look and put a rug on it. But I always thought about replacing it with the original porch. We never got around to it because jackhammering out concrete for something that's less durable kind of seems like a bad idea. So we never could get there. But I do know that is historic precedent. I know I love the beauty of it. I do know it takes maintenance. I'm not trying to say like, oh, none of this takes maintenance. It's fine. It does. But like my friend Sarah Jo from Briarton Farm always talks about, she has shared a lot of their journey of DIY restoring their Victorian farmhouse. It's been a labor of love over lots of years. They've done it all themselves, just all themselves. But she talks about how there's not a maintenance-free choice. So in her old house, they ripped off the vinyl siding and restored the wood siding beneath it, which was just a huge process. And she said that people tend to think that if you put vinyl siding over wood siding, that there won't be ever any maintenance. But the truth is, there still is. It only lasts so long. At some point, you'll have to replace it. Same with windows. Same with porches. I mean, I guess if you have a concrete porch, honestly, probably not much maintenance there. Well, we did repaint ours quite a bit, but there's always something you have to do to keep a home looking nice, whether it's repainting a concrete porch, whether it is power washing siding or replacing it if some of it cracks. There's no choice that's 100% maintenance free. So since I have only ever lived in old houses, I'm more comfortable with a lot of these decisions just because we've had them and they haven't been this thing that's like this terrible life altering thing. So I'm confident that it's going to be okay. I'm really excited to see a painted wood porch floor because that's just my favorite kind of porch. That should be installed later this week. And then finally the columns. So excited to see those columns go up. We've had them for so long and we just haven't been at the point in the build where we could do that. That's another thing too, is any of the things I've mentioned, definitely extend the time that it's going to take to build this house. Luke's out here painting nonstop. When we go to install these porch floorboards, he's going to be out here painting again. I mean, he's probably not going to have a break between those 2 painting sessions. Getting the right exterior materials and building the moldings for around the windows. I could go on and on. There are so many things that it's going to make this build take longer. But my motto through this whole thing has been, I'm not going to just choose something because it's fast, because ultimately, like in a year, regardless, we'll be living here. If it's a few months sooner, that would be lovely. I just can't wait. We just come out here just to hang out because the view's beautiful. I'm at home in the country, but I don't want to make any choices that are just because it's faster. And so, yeah, this build's going to take way longer, as you can see. I mean, we're not even beyond framing still. There's still a lot of windows we're waiting on. You know, we'd probably, if we did things a little bit easier, would have already had the insulation and the walls, whether we're doing beadboard on some and drywall on some. So it's, you know, even like down to like this brick choice, there was a weight on this. This wasn't just in stock, but I'm like, I just am gonna get the thing I want and not worry about it because we're going to be in here eventually. Cannot wait to see those porch columns. I'm so happy about that brick chimney I was just standing in front of because that is just going to be inside of our sunroom, which is cozy. And then our wood cook stove came in. Now, of course, it's just going to sit in storage for a while. Thought we'd be a little further along by now, but as I said, looking at this realistically, it makes perfect sense why we're not. Got the windows over here. We opted to go with traditional wood shingles on this main part of the house. Then we did metal roof on back porch, sun porch, front porch, and dormers. Creates kind of a, as Brent says, a historic precedent that this was the main house, and this will age. So right now it's very red, but it'll go to like a silvery gray. And that would suggest Like right now it doesn't because it's so fresh that it doesn't really suggest anything. But that will, in about a year when it's gray, suggest that this was the original house, and then they added on porches. Like over time they added on porches, and then eventually they windowed in this porch for additional square footage. So that's kind of the story we're creating with this new old house thing. That's what you want to do, is create a story. And there's lots of ways you can do that. You can do it on a much smaller home. Not that this home is massive, but it is bigger than we would have done if we were doing this like 10, 15 years ago. At that point, we probably would have done Jay Osborne's free farmhouse plan, and then did like a little porch edition, and then did a little side edition like I've seen on his Instagram. Somebody did, just adorable. But then of course by now we probably would have added on a lot more because our family's grown so much. But anyways, obviously we are building this all right now, yet trying to create a story like it has history, even though it doesn't. Then we did a metal roof on the garage. Brent actually suggested the shake roof, but we decided that we're just going to stick with this one little spot just because it's definitely a pricier choice. Okay, there's a few things I want to share with you at the barn. One is batten strips. It was honestly prettier without batten strips, but you have to do that or this barn will eventually rot away because all the water would be getting in. So that's just one of those practical things. There's a door back here that our builders, they're just so creative and good at things like this. I didn't give them any instructions on this person door here. They used some of the old lumber we picked up from a local guy that sells old lumber to build the frame. We still need to get hardware, but there's that. I think it's just gorgeous. It's really pretty from the inside too. So there's that. And then the hay door is in, and it's very similar to that door. And there will be a hay loft up here, which we're working on. Luke went and picked up floor joists from a guy that was selling old barn wood, and he said this was the floor in an old loft. So we think that's pretty darn cool because it'll now be a floor of a loft in our old barn. And this will be a little bathroom. It will be wrapped in cedar all the way up to the top, and then we're gonna hide a staircase up there to get to the loft. Again, that was my builder's idea. He said he's seen a barn like that. We couldn't figure out where to put the stairs, and that's something he came up with, which I thought was cool. The plumber's already roughed everything in. It is gonna be the most basic bathroom, plus some storage. We're gonna put a real heavy, almost like utility sink in here because that will be good for when we're milking cows. So we're gonna do like a little water heater, like a 2.5 gallon one, and a utility sink. This will be great for guests, but then also for actual milking. On this side, we're gonna have a stall that's the same size. It'll be wrapped in cedar, and it'll be your way to get up to the hay loft. And then for the sake of symmetry, there will be 2 stalls on this side. So it'll be almost like a little hallway with 4 rooms, if you will, 3 stalls and a bathroom. And then that side's gonna all be just very open. And then above these 4 rooms will be a hay loft. Here's the loft door from the outside. And then on this west side of the barn, the windows are trimmed out. The barn doors are up that our builders just built with cedar. And then the frame is of the old barn wood that we picked up, and the batten strips are on. So this is kind of what it'll look like. I still want to paint it red. However, we are so busy with painting right now. I wouldn't even dream of mentioning this to Luke right now. So what's probably going to happen is probably a year or 2 from now, it'll have aged. It'll be a nice gray cedar aged color. And either I'll love it or we'll paint it red. I really think we'll paint it red, but we can't bring ourselves to even dreaming about that right now. Just there's so much work to do on the house, and we've taken on a little bit too much, I think. Here's a view of the house. The garage kind of sticks out like a sore thumb right now, honestly. There'll be landscaping and things. Like, first of all, we're gonna have to put a gravel drive in front of the house because right now you only pull up to the side of the house. We want to put that there. We're gonna have some raised beds here. We're working on the pasture. Luke brush hogged it all. And then in the fall, we're gonna actually disc and plant things. So there'll be a fence line, cattle, raised beds, probably a kitchen garden, probably some outdoor dining and string lights, and then probably play stuff and maybe a fence behind the house. So it has a lot of things that will look a lot better when it's all developed, and that'll take forever. But I'm always just trying to remember with this project, one day at a time. In several years, it'll just be done and over, and a memory and we'll be living here. And so I think I'll always look back fondly on these days, even though there are parts of it that are hard. But just like coming here every day and seeing it come together just inch by inch, little by little, a vision that was born well over a year ago in our heads is slowly over a course of probably like 2 years and way beyond, talking gardens, fruit trees, that's all just so far down the road. Coming to life, I do think it'd be a mistake not to enjoy it, because we are trying to create the character and charm of an old farmstead, and those don't happen in 6 months or a year. And I can't wait to see hay stacked up here. We have this many shingles left. I'm like, okay, that's kind of a lot. Is that like chicken coop a lot, or like tiny little cottage a lot? You'd have to really calculate before you got started, but I mean, they're so cute. I don't know how to lay them, so they're not getting thrown away, of course. I think that we could build something little or cute, maybe even just a little playhouse for the baby girl, and roof it to match the house. So yeah, we'll have to stash this pallet somewhere for future projects. Like I said, can't bring it up now. Cannot bring that up now, but in the future, maybe. This door here, Luke worked on starting to strip it. He did so many things with the doors. And finally, we decided that we should just stop because we had other things we had to move on to. Like the paint is pressing right now because we got to paint right when the windows came in. And so honestly though, I'm looking at this and I'm like, that's pretty. That's pretty. I might not ever make him redo it. But for now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna hang them all, and then we'll just visit it later, take it back off the hinges if it really bothers us. Another thing that kind of in the garage when we were working on these, things like this bothered me, but now I'm like, am I gonna care? Because I've, like I said, lived in old houses my entire adult life, and really only 6 years of my not adult life, because I grew up in an old farmhouse till I was 12, and then my parents built a new house, and I lived there till I was 18. And then I guess I lived a few random places for 4 years, like college and an apartment. Anyways, so like 10 years of my 40, the only ones I haven't lived in an old house. All that to say, when you have doors like this in your old house that you live in, you just accept that that's how they are. You're not like, oh, I gotta finish it, make it perfect. You're just like, oh, that's how the door is. It's an old house. And so I'm wondering if when these are up, and my brain truly believes this is an old house because of all of the design choices we've made, and everything doesn't look perfect. That's my point. If it looked perfect, that'd look out of place. My goal is this house isn't gonna look super polished and perfect. If it does, we'll scuff it up a little bit just in about a year's time. Just like the roof will age, the wood floors will age, it'll all age. And so I'm thinking maybe I won't even care and it'll give it more of an authentic old look. That could just be me very tired of DIYing stuff for now, and maybe later we'll do stuff. But yeah, the doors are gonna go up as is at this point. I have been so excited to see this window in particular, because this is my window. This is the one where my sink's here, my range is here against this wall. And so this is where Mother will spend a lot of time. And I'm gonna unlatch it. And what's so great, they open. And yes, you can get screens for these windows. I'm not gonna do it for now because in my last house, we had windows above the kitchen sink. I opened them all the time and I was fine with the no screens. I put fly strips up. I like the fresh breeze. I know I'm weird. Everybody else thinks I'm crazy. So I understand I'm the minority here, but I don't think I'll care. If I do, then we'll get some screens. Just the view. I got my barn over there. Got our sun porch. I'll see through the window into the sun porch. I want to put a little eating area out here with string lights. When we were here with the electrician, we asked for, you hear that dinging? That's because these are actually weights inside. There's not old. I keep saying old. These are brand new. There's weights in there. But we asked him to put an outlet up here. We didn't have room actually for lights on this part, but that's sheathing. So that's gonna be very thin. We put outlets up here so we can hang string lights. So this has been just like, I just couldn't wait to get an actual visual of this special little spot where I'll be hanging out all the time. I don't want to go back to town. I think I'm just gonna start sleeping here. I don't know. Luke and the boys camped out the other day on the porch. I went home with the little kids and the girls, but yeah, we all just want to live here. The completed chimney on this side. I don't know if I have. I talked about it on Instagram, but I can't remember ever what I did on here when I did on Instagram. This side goes in twice, like it goes in here, then it goes in there. And on the sun porch, this bottom part, it's just straight down. So there's not this larger section there at the bottom, which I think is just so pretty. I love the proportions that we have going on over here. Houses were a little trimmer, especially in this colonial revival period, 1900 Victorian period. And then they made up for the square footage with add-ons. Like we finished the attic and we added on this back porch with the windows. So the house itself is only 25 feet wide, which is a thinner proportion than maybe is somewhat typical for a house that's 50 feet across.